Hi everyone, welcome back to DGMZ Diwan-e-ghalib-meri-zubaani. To all our returning viewers, we are very happy you could join us again. And for the new viewers, we are delighted you discovered the podcast and decided to tune in for the first time. Now, today's episode is part of the DGMZ Miniseries that we are currently running. It is dedicated to the immortal love story of Layla and Majnun. As part of this series, we are exploring the story via narration and also via Urdu poetry, Sher, shairi, paintings, etc. So today we are going to pick up the narration of the story from chapter 50 onwards. But before we get into the narration, DGMZ would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge and appreciate Suluk Press Publishing House for allowing us to narrate this story from their publication titled The Story of Layla and Majnun by Nizami, translated from the Persian and edited by Rudolph Gelpke. English version in collaboration with E. Matin and G. Hill. Final chapter translated from the Persian by Pirzia Inayat Khan and Omid Safi. Now, the description section of this episode will have a link to this book for viewers who want to own a copy. In addition, we will also post the links to the DGMZ Ghazal episodes where Ghalib mentions Layla and Majnun, which in fact was the inspiration to start a mini-series dedicated to the story of Layla and Majnun. So, let's get into today's narration. The Story of Layla and Majnun, Chapter 50. Autumn had come. In the garden, the leaves were falling like drops of blood. The warmth of the sun escaped from rivers and lakes. The face of the landscape became sere and yellow. The flowers shed the color and brilliance of their garments. Ready to depart, the narcissus tied its bundle. The jasmine silver lost its precious gleam, and the rose petals became a book of mourning. Like sailors afraid of a storm, branches and calyxes threw their load overboard, and the gardeners collected apples, grapes, and berries to protect them from the advancing winter. And as the garden fared, so fared Layla. Her spring had faded, withered by the evil eye of the world, and her flame flickered in the gusts of the wind. The fairy one had become weak and transparent. Of the full moon, only one half remained, and of the proud cypress, only its shadow. Our tulip shed her petals. A cold fever shook her limbs and spread dark blotches and stains over her sweet face. Layla could hardly leave her bed, and her soul prepared to leave the body like a pheasant abandoning the crown of the felled cypress tree. She knew it well, sensing that death stood close. She allowed no one near but her mother, revealing in this hour for the first and last time the secret of her love. Then she said, "Mother, oh my dear mother, how does it happen that a Ghazal kid imbibes poison with its mother's milk? I am fading away. And what has my life been? I have suffered so much in secret that now I must talk. Before my soul escapes, the grief in my heart breaks open the seal on my lips. I must draw back the curtain, and then I shall go. My beloved, for whom I have lived, and for whom I die, is far away. Listen to me, mother. When I am dead, dress me like a bride. Make me beautiful. As a salve for my eyes, take dust from Majnu's path. Prepare indigo from his sorrow. Sprinkle the rose water of his tears on my head, and veil me in the scent of his grief. I want to be clad in a blood-red garment, for I am a blood witness, like the martyrs. Red is the color of the feast. Is not death my feast? Then cover me in the veil of earth, which I shall never lift again. He will come, my restless wanderer, I know. He will sit at my grave, searching for the moon, yet seeing nothing but the veil, the earth, and he will weep and lament. Then, mother, remember that he is my friend, and how true a friend. Remember that I leave him to you as my bequest. Treat him well, comfort him, never look harshly upon him. Do so for God's sake, because I have loved him, and my wish is that you too should love him as I did. But Layla's heart was not yet stilled in her care for Majnun. When he comes, mother, and you see him, give him this message from me. Tell him, when Layla broke the chain of the world, she went thinking of you, lovingly, faithful to the end. Your grief in this world has always been hers, and she has taken it with her to sustain her on the journey. The longing for you did not die with her. Behind the veil of earth, you cannot see her eyes, but they are looking for you, following you wherever you go. They are waiting for you, asking, when do you come? Tell him that, mother. Thus Layla spoke, tears streaming down her face. She called the name of her beloved. Then her voice died away, and she crossed the frontier into the other land. When death had closed her lips, the mother's grief was boundless. She tore her jasmine white hair and embraced and clasped her daughter's body, as if she could breathe life into it again. She pressed her face against Layla's forehead, and her tears glinted and sparkled like a cluster of stars on the extinct moon. To no avail. Even if heaven itself had joined in the lament, everyone must cross this threshold, but none returns. The story of Layla and Majnun, Chapter 51. It happened just as Layla had foretold. When Majnun, in the wilderness, learned about the death of his beloved, he set out at once. He came like a thundercloud, driven by the storm, and fell down on her grave as if struck by lightning. Do not ask what it looked like, his burnt-out heart. Enough! People who saw and heard him were so terrified that they fled. Some even wept for him. Like a serpent, twisting and turning over the treasure which it guards, he writhed in torment, and his tongue was a flaming torch of lament. "O my flower," he exclaimed, "you withered before you blossomed. Your spring was your fall. Your eyes hardly saw this world." To those who watched, Majnun appeared madder than ever, and so did his words, which resounded in their ears, words which he addressed to his beloved in her grave. "How do you fare where you rest now, down there in the darkness? Your musk mole, your Ghazal eye, where are they? The splendor of your agate lips, the amber-scented coils of your tresses, what has happened to them? Which colors adorn you there, you, my beautiful picture? In what bowl do they melt you, my candle? Whose eyes do you gladden now? On which bank do you grow, my cypress tree? And in which tulip garden do you celebrate your feast? How do you spend your time in the cave? Where there are caves, there also live serpents. Do you know that? What does a moon like you seek in such a place? Look, I suffer for you and your life in the cave. Or are you a buried treasure now? You are, else you would not have disappeared into the earth. But every treasure has a serpent in its cave to guard it. This guardian am I. I am your serpent. I have no other abode. How changed you are. Your fate was clouded, disturbed like sand on a desert path. Suddenly you have fallen still, like the water in the depth of a well. Yet, even if you are hidden from my eyes, my heart can see you and will never lose you. Even if your form has vanished, your sufferings here will endure through eternity. Then Majnun jumped up again. He was not alone, for his beasts surrounded him in dumb loyalty. Now they followed him back into the wilderness, while he sang of love, which is stronger than death. Thus the caravan moved through the desert. The sand wept with Majnun. The mountains echoed his mourning songs. His lament struck sparks from the thorn bushes in the gorges, and the stones of the steep glowed with the color of his blood. But even the wilderness no longer offered a refuge to this homeless heart. Again and again, his longing drove Majnun back to the grave of his beloved. Like a mountain stream, he rushed down into the valley, covering with thousands of kisses the earth where his buried love awaited him. While he was lying there, weeping and telling his grief, the animals kept watch over him, so that he should not be disturbed. Thus it happened that people began to avoid Layla's grave. Not surprisingly, for who was to know whether the madman would suddenly appear? Who wanted to be struck down by a lion's paw, to be torn by a wolf's fangs? End of narration. It is very interesting that in the previous episode we covered Ibn Salam's death, and just after that chapter we see Layla die. And if you remember in the previous episode, we were going through the joy Layla was feeling, right? Running through her after her husband's death, because of the fact that now she felt free. Now she felt for the first time in her life that she might have a chance to meet Majnun on this earth, right? And just how suddenly things deteriorated for her, health-wise, spirit-wise. 2 years is a long time. In some of the other narrations and versions of the story, we have read that when the information was shared with her that after a husband's death, a widow has to stay 2 years isolated from everybody, at least in that version, what was depicted was that was the last straw that broke the camel's back. Layla just could not take it anymore. She had waited for her entire life to get to a position where she could be free to meet Majnun, and now that she was, to wait 2 years more was too much for her spirit and body to endure, and that's when she fell sick. So yeah, she falls sick, and it is such a revealing paragraph where she talks to her mother, all her life. For one reason or the other, she had to keep quiet. And at the time of death, could she finally tell her mother how much she loved Majnun? Her entire life she had made so much effort to hide that fact. And the way she talks about Majnun, the protective instinct she has towards Majnun, the almost bordering on fear kind of a sentiment she has for Majnun, because she knows it is going to destroy Majnun and whatever little is left of him once he knows about her death. And she also knows that Majnun will have a superhuman reaction to her death. The reaction he's going to have is going to be unfathomable, almost superhuman. And how she requests her mother to be nice to him. And I love the way Nizami says, and as Layla had foretold, in chapter 51 he says, and as Layla had foretold, he came like a storm and fell like lightning on her grave. Beautiful depiction. You can feel it. You can feel it. And then of course, the way Majnun says, now you are the treasure, you are in a cave, and I'm going to be the serpent who is going to guard you. Telling Layla, living in caves was my job. Living in God-forsaken dark places was my job. Why did you get buried so deep in the dark? Why did you get yourself into a cave? Why did you get into a God-forsaken place? But now that you have, I'm the experienced one. This is something I've been doing for years. I'm going to join you there. And you will be the treasure and I will be the serpent guarding you. Yes, I am going to be your guardian down there. Don't you worry, Layla. You're not gonna be alone there. I'm gonna join you there, and I'm gonna guard you there. Beautiful, beautiful chapters. Two very beautiful chapters. For the past few episodes, I've been giving you a heads up. We are coming to the end of the story. Now, of course, Layla is gone. There is very little left in the story. But whatever there is, we will pick it up in the next episode. As always, share with us what you thought of the narration. How has the whole experience of going through Layla Majnun's story been for you so far at DGMZ? Now, I'm going to end this episode. I'm sending a lot of love and light to all you dear viewers, and thanks for watching.